Hello children, today I will be reviewing a PlayStation 5 game that, during these hard times, made me rediscover the values of friendship and diversity in a progressive society. I am talking of course about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, a third-person platformer shooter made by Insomnia Games and published under the patronage of the Japanese government since 2002, employing the work regime of an Indonesian sweatshop. Sony Entertainment released no less than 17 Ratchet and Clank video games on the free market. It is part of the traditional Japanese business model to sell countless reiterations of the same product to a willing Western consumer base. By now, everybody and their extended family played this game. As such, I decided to take a more sophisticated approach and analyze Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart as a metaphor for modern society. I don't know much about the franchise, but I approached it with confidence and an open mind. The two fundamental elements are needed to successfully create millennial humor. As the Japanese armed themselves for cultural world domination, it would be a sign of good faith on our behalf towards our new benefactors to enrich ourselves with their civilization, as reflected in the universe of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Premise: you start the game as Ratchet, an anthropomorphic crossbred rodent-like creature. In light of seemingly previous heroics, Ratchet and his assistant Clank are celebrated as galactic heroes in an extravagant parade organized in their name and seemingly choreographed by the Chinese Communist Party. When not out causing galactic genocide, Ratchet champions the working class in its struggle to be recognized as a legally protected minority. Clank, on the other hand, is the eye candy of the boy band. He is charming, witty, and most of the time useless. His appearance is reminiscent of the Iron Giant from Warner Brothers' 1999 children's movie, The Iron Giant. The Iron Giant was directed by the genius which is Brad Bird. Born in September 1957 in Kalispell, Montana, Philip Bradley Bird is an American director, screenwriter, animator, producer, and occasional voice actor, known for blessing us with animated and live-action films such as The Incredibles 1, The Incredibles 2, Ratatouille, and of course, The Iron Giant. Objectively, the greatest animation movie ever created. During the parade, Clank reveals that he has repaired the Dimensionator, an interdimensional sex toy that can help Ratchet search for his missing people, homeland, and family. The parade is interrupted by Ratchet and Clank's arch-nemesis, the mechanical avatar of former multinational corporate CEO Jeff Bezos, who, after conquering the final frontiers of capitalism, has also conquered flesh and become an immortal god. He is the embodiment of the idea that money can truly buy anything, that utopia can be achieved by replacing all sentient life with artificial intelligence. This idea is actively promoted in the circles of rich people and partisans of the right wing, all degenerate sadists that hate the poor and use them as nutriment for their children. Frustrated with the fact that in this universe, commerce giant AliExpress has canonically achieved galactic monopoly over all means of production, Jeff plans to use the Dimensionator to transport himself, Ratchet, and Clank to an alternate dimension in which Amazon dominates all chains of commerce, actively spreading its prime services through corporate warfare all across the galaxy. Things don't go as planned. During their confrontation, Ratchet, ripping a page out of a Vin Diesel movie, unthinkingly shoots the Dimensionator, causing dimensional rifts to begin opening randomly. Ratchet, Clank, and Jeff Bezos end up being stuck in an alternate universe. The Dimensionator then explodes, cripples Clank, and separates the three. Once in multi-universe, you meet Rivet, Ratchet's cross-dimensional female counterpart, and Sony's take on a more progressive cast of characters. In modern PC fashion, she is strong, financially independent, and fights the patriarchy. Just like Jesus intended, Insomnia Games successfully plays the gender card with Rivet, appeals to a broader audience, and manages to create a highly likable character. Because one strong female lead character is never enough, Sony also created a female counterpart to Clank. Her name is Kit, and I already forgot everything else about her, apart from the fact that she complains a lot and has daddy issues. Arguably, the best kind of issues you could have. Gameplay. Booting up the game, I was blown away by the autistic level of customizable gameplay options. You can choose to play the game in beautiful, highly detailed 30 FPS or in a diabetic sugar rush 60 FPS mode. I went for the latter because beauty is ephemeral. The vibrations of the controller are so intense you can practically use them to pleasure yourself, regardless of gender or gender identity. Something that annoyed me to extreme lengths is the fact that you have no option of changing the in-game language text from within the game's menu. As I managed to discover after my first full run, in order to change the game's text language, you need to change your account language as well. However, because Insomnia Games is an offshore Croatian money laundering scheme of Sony Entertainment, there is a Croatian subtitles option embedded headed into the main menu of the game. 10 out of 10. During the story, you alternate between playing Ratchet and Rivet to reach your goal, which is defeating the establishment, its leader, and successfully returning to your dimension where the working class has not yet been abolished and where the fact of being a proletarian is not an offense punishable by death. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a very subtle take on real-world problems such as racism, racial segregation, corporate colonialism, and genocide. A perfect game for your children. In this parallel dimension you are thrown into, the corporate employment sector has completely taken over, driving small and medium businesses bankrupt and imposing a colonial corporate Sharia law dictatorship under the leadership of a white man who speaks white English with a white accent. The legally acceptable majority is formed out of robots who are wage slaves who imitate human behavior. The corporate overlords actively and passively promote a segregation policy against all biological life, eliminating any remaining trace of human intelligence from the employment market. Evidently, machines are easily replaced, do not require payment, free time, healthcare, and social services, do not develop social awareness, do not commit sexual harassment in the workplace, and do not go into child labor. Replacing the workforce with artificial intelligence is, of course, a Japanese business owner's wet dream, and the next natural step in humanity's ascension. As a champion of the welfare state, you visit multiple planets and seek to soothe the suffering of the indigenous population. Whatever you do or say will not have any influence in the long run. Their lands, women, and children will inevitably be taken by the rich. The land will be used to build storage areas and assembly lines, while the indigenous population will be forced to work in the glue factory on less than minimum wage. During your playthrough, you complete main story objectives and 1 or 2 side objectives on each planet. You can complete the objectives set out in any order you like, leave and come back later, or never come back at all, and leave the locals to their miserable fate, which is a truly marvelous outcome. The more you do, the more you topple the social order, create chaos, and the childish illusion that anything you ever do has any meaning. The currency in the game, which you use to perform trade operations on the galactic market, consists of Monster Energy Drink with 0 calories. You obtain the Nectar of the Gods by butchering your enemies or destroying public property. You accumulate obscene quantities of energy drink and exchange them for weapons, fueling the illegal arms trade, slavery, and civil unrest in the Middle East. The weapons are another great feature of the game. You employ the most violent weapons possible to maim, disable, disfigure, and kill your enemies. You resort to extreme active cruelty, ignoring the most basic principles and rules of war. You kill your enemies through eating them alive, freezing them to death, or setting them on fire. The sheer brutality of the game is revealed especially when facing living mercenaries, which die in the most horrible pains imaginable. Animal cruelty is also an important part of the game, as you endanger multiple species of wildlife for your personal leisure. My favorite weapon is the Glove of Doom, which spawns a pack of robotic hounds to do your bidding that rip into your enemies and peel the flesh off their bones. It is arguably the most efficient way of playing the game, as spawning multiple packs basically makes them play the game for you. Another weapon I favor is the Chinese peasant's rocket launcher, which lights dogs on fire, stuffs them with explosive material, and causes them to explode on impact. A technique used by the Chinese guerrilla fighters in 20th century Manchuria against the Japanese invaders. With the Monster Energy drink you accumulate, you upgrade your weapons or buy new ones. If you are only interested in the story and thus are a filthy casual, you can cheese the game by fully upgrading and only using one weapon. I recommend the Chinese rocket launcher. It has a lock-on feature, it can target multiple enemies, requires 0 skill on your behalf, and is efficient against both land and ground units. Through quests and exploration, you also unlock armor pieces. Equipping armor gives you certain bonuses, such as collecting more currency or obtaining higher tolerance to a corporate indoctrination program. As a sign of perfect socialist symbiosis, Ratchet and Rivet become one entity, sharing all their personal belongings and hardships, just like Jesus intended. The environment and sound design are drop dead gorgeous, and you will feel many times like you're playing a Pixar movie. You can tell this is a high budget production from music, quality of the sound, and especially the voice actors. All are brilliant, but my personal favorite is Richard Horvitz, who voices Zircon Jr. in the Arena mini games. If you grew up in the 90s like me, you should instantly recognize him as Billy from The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. He is also going to be featured in the upcoming Psychonauts game. Indeed, I shamelessly plugged an upcoming Microsoft title in a Sony game review, because that's just the kind of guy I am. Despite some more open areas, the game is pretty linear and built on the classic concept of the hero's journey. No matter the extent of your killing spree and the cost incurred by the evil bourgeoisie state, you will eventually be successful in your Zionist quest and return to your universe, Israel, where all leaders of man and heroes of the working class come from, and where extradition of citizens is prohibited under any and all circumstances. The linear structure of the story is fragmented by 2 types of puzzle moments. During the story, story, Clank investigates multiple dimensional anomalies and makes contact with a prophet named Gary, a cosmic shaman who feeds you ayahuasca to induce a transcendental meditation state. When in an out-of-body state, your consciousness travels inside the anomalies, solves universal dilemmas, and prevents dimensional cataclysm. You also hack into different terminals by taking control of a female Black Widow spider called Glitch. After mating with and consuming her mate, she is recruited against her will by Ratchet, who uses her to purify infected computer terminals of viruses and cancerous growths. The computer viruses are actual lumps of biomass that give birth to cancerous mutagens. You can tell the writer spared no ounce of illegal substances when conceiving the story. If you are like me, which is cheap, the length of the game is an important factor. This is not an IGN review, so I didn't experiment, but I did take my time with the game. I did not speed through it. I sometimes collected part of the collectibles. I did not finish all side objectives, but I finished the game in roughly 12 to 13 hours. The replayability of the game is rather high if you want to fully upgrade the weapons and collect all the trophies. Also, if you're not a filthy casual, you can attempt to finish the game 20 times, each time using only one weapon. You can also attempt to finish half of the game with one weapon and the rest with another weapon. Combine these options and the possibilities are virtually infinite. My main issue with the game, not a very extensive progressive cast. To conclude this ADHD driven review, I am legally bound to inform you that I highly enjoyed this game. I played it twice and highly recommend you buy it and do the same. The game retails at your local game shop for 75 euros, despite the fact that we are on the brink of global recession. Fun fact, 75 euros is almost half of a Bulgarian citizen's minimum net monthly wage. The game is more expensive if you choose to buy it through the PlayStation marketplace. But hey, playing video games is not for the poor. If you are poor, it is entirely your fault. You failed to establish multiple streams of income to feed the global economy. So swear an oath to kill the rich, destroy trickle-down economics, finance the intergalactic weapons market, drink Monster Energy drink with 0 calories, which objectively is the best drink ever created, and immerse yourself in the complex politics and lore of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart 10 out of 10, but never play again. I hope you enjoyed this degenerate review of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Go support the developer by giving more money to the rich, making the poor even poorer, and consider leaving a like or even subscribing. The party thanks you for allocating valuable minutes of your life to this video, minutes you will never recover. Inshallah. God bless the European Union.